Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and BidamountLive.com and P.L. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, July 9th, 2021, and this is our regular weekly video. We're going to go through a whole bunch of things this week. There's a lot going on, and I'm going to talk about there's a type of reproduction of Chinese export vases that have been turning up on the market increasingly, and we have an example of one, and I'm going to go over it with you. There's one on eBay right now, and at a glance, they're fairly convincing, and we're going to talk about it a bit. A lot happened this week. A lot's been going on. The European auction houses seem to be getting a little quiet for the month of August because, as you know, a lot of Europe takes a month off in the summer. They go on vacations. They believe in long vacations over there. I have to agree with them. I think that's a brilliant idea. But at any rate, so you're going to be seeing fewer things on Invaluable and Live Auctioneers for the next few weeks. And then, as we saw last year, there's a flood that comes back in September, October, November, and lots of material. But there's still some things worth looking at. And there's a couple of auctions coming up in the next couple of days that are on Invaluable Live Auctioneers, that are on the global pages. We're going to talk about them just a little bit this morning. Okay, now let's flip over to the first bit of it. One of them is, let's see, this is on Live Auction, Invaluables page, is the results. This is one of the things we're talking about. The Cabral Moncada Lelos auction. This took place on July 5th in Lisbon, Portugal. And they had some really interesting Chinese export pieces. And one of them was this pair of Famille Rose trembleuses, which cups, they tremble when you carry them, this kind of thing. But at any rate, beautiful, beautiful pair, wonderfully done. And there was an old note on the inside of them. It looks like they sold for maybe five and a half francs 150 years ago or something. At any rate, they did pretty well this time around. They brought 1,600 euros, which I think is reasonable for these. These are fairly rare. They were not made at all for the American market. They were made purely for Europe during the Qing period. They're beautifully, beautifully done. Some may have been even done in the Yongchen period, but at any rate, they were very, very nice, and they did well. All right, the other thing that was in the same sale was this. This was an absolutely great pair. And a number of you I know that get the global pages saw these because you asked about them. And an absolutely wonderful little pair of armorial tureens. And these were small. These are only 6 or 7 inches long. They're scaled like life-size, like big ones, like 18-inch ones, but they're not. These were very small. Small export tureens in this style are very rare and unusual. They didn't make many of them. They were considered a true luxury item. And the handles on these were just stupendous. If anybody took the time to look at these, the way the branch handles were done on here, the enameling was excellent. They dated them to the I think the Qing period probably. Some people thought they were 18th century. There's a whole lot of debate about them, but the quality was outstanding on them. And somebody picked the pair up for 2,100 euros, which I think was a great buy. I don't know what the condition was on them, but if they were in good condition, they had them dated as Qing. If these were in great condition, that was one of the steals of the week for a really high-end pair of export pieces. All right, and the other thing I wanted to mention was that on the 14th, the Renacimento sale is coming up over in Lisbon, and they have things like this. This really nice kangxi with the faux bamboo wrapped porcelain handle and all that. Estimated at 1,500 to 2,500 euros. That's about right. In the past, we've seen these sell pretty handily in the 2,000 to 3,000 euro range, if in nice shape. It's kangxi period, beautifully done. Nice colors, nice aubergine on it, nice overglazed blue and overglazed enamels, beautiful greens and so forth. Looks like a nice one. As always, of course, you get a condition report, but if you're a kangxi porcelain buyer, check that out. And this is a sale that's coming up tomorrow. I mentioned it a couple of times. This is the Casco Bay auction in Freeport, Maine. And this is just one of the lots in here, and this is a rare teapot. It has fish on it. It's really quite exceptional. I hope those of you that buy rare export pieces took a look at this. Very nicely done. They have it dated as early 19th century. It could be 18th century also. The quality of the porcelain is excellent, and it has fish on it, aquatic fish and aquatic plants. Very unusual, Rather a rare teapot. The bottom of that looks 18th century to me, though, I have to say. The foot rim on that does look 18th century. They might just be conservative. But this is a beautiful little teapot. Casco Bay Auctions. It's got a $300 to $400 estimate, which I think is crazy low, and has an opening bid of $150 and no bids yet. All right, so check out Casco Bay. The sale is tomorrow, Saturday, but you can still register online to check it out. Do that if you like it. There's also a very nice Asari carpet in that sale. All right, the other thing I wanted to mention again, of course, this is a reminder, is the Austrian Rug Company sale that's coming up in a few weeks. You have plenty of time to make arrangements. I've been going through this week because there's a couple of things in there I'm probably going to try to buy. It is a nifty sale if you're into Central Asian and Chinese, Tibetan, and Chinese tribal, Chinese rugs and so forth. Lots of good Turkoman material in here, some very early fragments. And the beauty of fragments is, of course, if you can't afford to buy a mid-18th century piece of Arabachi, which is a type of carpet. Those of you that buy Turkoman and Central Asian stuff know what it is. Anyway, you can't afford to buy the bag face because they sell for $10,000, $20,000. They're selling fragments, which are kind of cool. And there's a number of fragment lots in here, as well as some very nice Caucasian pieces. As I mentioned last week, there's some good Osmo looks in here and some nice Chinese pieces here. So you want to check this out, okay? There's some nice Pao-Tu rugs. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. There's one on here with flowers all over it. If you're a textile collector and you're getting into Chinese textiles and Central Asian textiles, Austrian Rug Company's got some really interesting pieces on here, all right? And I also like the Gabba rug over here, the geometric Persian rug. I like those. They're very cool. All right, now this is just a couple of the lots from that sale. This is a very, very good Yomut Shoal or saddlebag cover. Those of you that buy these know exactly what this is. But this is a good, clean one. It looks to be in very, very, very good condition overall. It may have a couple of tiny stains here, or those just be blotches in the dye. But a very nice blue-green here. Nice weaving, and moderately estimated, $1,000 to $1,500. It should get there. And then there's there's a nice Igdar main carpet. They call it a fragment. I'm not sure why it's a fragment. Maybe it's been reduced in length. But these are very rare. They come from eastern Turkey, western Central Asia, part of the Yomut sort of tribe. But a beautiful one, moderately estimated, $2,000 to $3,000. If you like Turkoman stuff, you want to check this out. This is a very old one. This is an 1850s or something. I don't know if they dated it. Mid-19th century, yeah, 1850s. Okay, they did date it. But it's a nice one. And also this, a Persian Senna wool rug. And somebody actually emailed me about this. They wanted to know about this rug because they said the pile looks very thin. And it is thin. And the reason it's thin is these were made thin. Senna carpets were woven with very, 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 very low pile. And somebody wrote me and said, gee, the pile on this looks awfully thin. And I said, yeah, that's probably about as good as it ever was. Senna rugs were very, very finely woven, single wefted, as you can see here. And then they would shave them very short, very, very short, almost like velvet. And the estimate on this rug is very reasonable. It's a beautiful rug. Looks to be late 19th or early 20th century. Nice condition, 4 by, what was this? 4.5 by 6 feet. They have it dated 1880, so maybe the colors are even better in person. They say it's late 19th century. Any rate, moderate bid, moderate estimate, $750. There was a day when these sort of rugs brought $5,000 to $7,000. So if you want a beautiful, beautiful Persian rug for your house to go with your Asian art collection, this is nice. And also Heineman's in Chicago has a sale coming up in 11 days. And it is this dandy Afshar wool rug. All right, it is a real tribal rug, very nicely done, rich, warm, very warm, typical Afshar colors, nice dark blues to contrast, and rather unusual with these multiple rows on it. Beautiful outer border, and it's sort of a chunky rug, they call them. If you look at it, the weaving on it is not high tech. This isn't ultra fine. This is a tribal rug. But I love it. I think it's charming. As you can see here, it's got a little bit of wear and whatnot. It is on a wool foundation, as a good tribal rug should be. And red wefts, beautifully done. And let's see what that brings. But the estimate on it's extremely reasonable. $1,200 to $1,800, opening bid $6,000. And how big is this? 5 by 5 feet. It's almost square. 5 by 5'11". Almost just a little bit, almost 5 by 6. But very, very attractive carpet for the carpet buyer. And then also, this is at Twents Velenwees sale over in the Netherlands. It's coming up in tomorrow. If you're watching that sale, just as a reminder, they have things like this really nice 18th century ewer with beautiful enamels on it, nicely done floral enamels, rather loosely drawn. I like these, sort of loose and nicely done. And there's an old repair here, as you can see, and that kind of thing. So check it out. You're often going to find, Qing pieces coming out of Europe often have repairs because they were used so much. But it's an interesting auction. And if you're watching that sale, just a reminder, it is tomorrow. And this is also in the sale, is this big Wutsai mid-17th century jar. Very nicely done. Has sort of this fish scale pattern on the outside with underglazed blue. Nice looking done. Very attractive rounded body on this. And it's around 10 inches tall, roughly. The estimate, I think, is a little stiff. 2,500 to 7,500 euros. But it's an unusual pattern, very pretty, and particularly finely done. So they may be onto something. All right. But if you like it, give it another look. The other thing I wanted to mention, too, was that Christie's is doing something sort of interesting. I mean, Bonhams, rather, not Christie's. Scratch that. Bonhams London is doing an interesting sale of Japanese stuff that's coming up. If you're a Japanese buyer, they've got the mother load of Netskis and Kazukas, sword fittings, tsubas, and this kind of thing. There's a couple of really nice tsubas in here. And the deal with this auction is, I think it's clever, everything with an estimate under 3,000 pounds is unreserved. All right, there's a few lots that are over that, but there are lots of lots that are well under that. And anything with an estimate of under 3,000 pounds has no reserve on it, which is a nice way to do it, especially if you're not, working with an unlimited budget. They have some more expensive things like this metal inlaid lacquer rectangular plaque. It's a very, very nice one, estimated at 4,000 to 5,000. But then they have things like this beautiful little wooden Netski of a Dutchman. And those of you that collect Netskis have seen this type before. They're absolutely charming, very, very warm patina to the wood, nicely carved, nice facial expression. And here we go. All right, so check that out if you're into Netskis. 1,500 to 2,000 pounds, which is about right. We've seen them on eBay before, and they all seem to sell in that range. And also some very nice gold lacquer in-row, 5-section in-row lacquer boxes here, 1,800 to 2,200 pounds. And here's another one at 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. If you're an in-row buyer and you've been looking to add to your collection, you want to check this out. This is a very nice one. This is by Tatsuki Takanori. It's an 18th to early 19th century lacquer box. Beautifully done. It probably has a reserve on it. No, it says to be sold without a reserve, even over 3,000 pounds. There you go. All right. So it's being sold without reserve. So if you want a signed lacquer in-row by a well-known carver, well-known maker, decorator, you want to take a look at that. It also has that very nice coral bead on the rope that goes with it. I like that. And another one here by Ogado Korin, and it is signed also, all right, and it is estimated at just 500 to 600. And as I mentioned, there's some nice tsubas in this sale. Some beautifully done mixed metal tsubas, Meiji period. This one is a Nara school example, signed here along the inside. Good gilt work on it all the way around and in nice condition. And there's in the back of it, of course, is decorated as well, a bit more simply with these little prunus blossoms coming down the side. But this is a very nice example. Let the page fully load. You get this charming blackbird in gold and silver with black pigment, the way they would patinate the metals and so forth. Very, very nice. Absolutely lovely. And estimated moderately, 450 to 500 pounds. All right. And the last thing I want to look at is, this is my favorite one. It may not be the most valuable, but it's a large iron. It's actually 2 iron tsubas. But the first one I like a lot because it's got a full 360 landscape, like a Japanese painting, going around the outside with bridges and a man on it. and this lovely little tea house here, and pine trees going up, and then mountains and so forth in the background, and then the area where it's been cut out to fit the sword blade is like the water with a signature. This is an absolutely lovely example. And then there is another one that they put with it, with a relief work dragon, which is very nice too, but it is not as interesting, I don't think, as the other piece. And the estimate on this lot for both of them is 600 to 800 pounds. That seems very, very reasonable for this one in particular. This is a gem, an absolute gem of a tsuba. I don't know why I'm kind of lost of why the estimate is so low, and they believe it's a 17th to 18th century example from the Jakushi school. Okay, all right. So that to me looks like a great buy, a really great buy. All right, and then on to what's been happening over on eBay. This is the pair of vases I wanted to talk about, the export copies. I've noticed these have been turning up. They're doing reproductions of very classic 18th century Qinglong garniture vases and jars, but especially the garniture vases, these tall, narrow affairs. And I've seen some that are even better than these, but these are pretty well done. The tip-off is one, the lids are wrong. The lids are sort of fouled up proportionally to the necks. They look a bit too big. But and the enamels are a bit too hard and bright, but the outlining is quite good. They almost look like Samson wares, like the ones they did in France, but they're not. These are contemporary Chinese, and if you take a look at this foot rim, this sort of machine cut base to it, extremely neat and orderly. Absolutely, this perfect, slightly off-white, almost light gray paste body, but you can see it's been factory trimmed, which is a big giveaway on these. You don't see any handwork really, and under here you can see how it was all smoothed out on the bottom of the lid, and then that perfect glaze on the inside. But this is a brand new pair of jars. They are knockoffs, all right, and hopefully people will notice it and not let them sell for much. They've got 4 days left to go. They are selling them as vintage, to this guy's credit, but I have seen them being offered as 18th century. These aren't really vintage. These are new. Vintage should be at least 30 or 40 years old. But at any rate, I quibble. But watch out for these being listed as antiques regardless. Okay? Just saying. I mean, this guy's got them listed fairly, but you want to be careful when they put them up as 18th century example. Be very, very careful. All right, and then on to a couple of results here. One was this really nice silver filigree and enameled fan that we talked about last week. I thought it was quite nice. A number of people liked it. I think a couple of people commented on last week's video about it. Very nicely done, nice enamel work, and it looked to be in nice condition on top of it all the way around. And I think it had its original ribbons that strung the piece together, and ended up selling pretty well. It did $1,605, which I think is fine. Nice looking fan. And this was Handy's Antiques over in Staten Island, New York. Had that. Handy's got some good things. And then over to this, the China Trade export teapot with the little peach finial on top. Bit of wear to the handle. Nice scene though. I kind of like this scene, this sort of moon window with this little house on a dock and a couple of figures in the foreground. Nice looking little teapot, and it did fine. It brought $571, which is about right for one of these. There was another one here that we'll get to in a minute that was a bit fancier, and it brought about 4 times that. All right, we'll get to that in a few seconds. The other thing I wanted to mention was this big famille jaune, sort of Zun type vase, 19th century, but nice famille rose enamels, nice dragon on it. The bottom of it, very typical mid-19th to late 19th century base on it. Nice looking colors. Here's a side shot of it and so forth. Thickly enameled. A lot of these were all made for export. And in the end, it did pretty well. It brought $701. You may remember a few months ago, we had one of these where it had sort of a grisaille band around this midsection here. So it had Chinese elements and European landscapes on it. Those are very rare. That one brought, I think, several thousand because of the European landscapes, largely. All right, and then over here to this sort of Nonya Straits spittoon, as they're known, and nicely done. Bright colors, strong, vibrant colors, very festive, typical of Nonya Straits porcelains. This very, very pretty blue that they love to use, and so forth. And they use them on other pieces, but typically these are thought as Straits wares. And I think it did. I think it brought a modest price. I think $1,059 for a big piece of Straits porcelain like that was reasonable. Some people say, well, it's really not Straits because of the shape and a whole bunch of other arguments. All right, this is Straits porcelain coloring as far as I'm concerned, and I think somebody got a very nice buy off the thing. This was sold by Libary over in the UK, over in London, had it. Nice things. And also this, another one of these, we always put these up when they come up, these 19th century moon flasks, because they seem to have a very, sort of a very standard sort of pricing structure, depending on size, color, and combination of colors and so forth. And this is a nice one with sort of these soft pink, almost skin tones, but a very interesting light green. If you've noticed, if you took the time to look at this, a very, very, very nice, almost like a light celery green that was used on it, which is a rather unusual color on these pieces. I think it's very attractive, and you can see how it's been. There it is. Here it is, and it's actually sort of a mixture of yellows and some other color, and it created this nice soft green. I like that. The decoration was fine on the rest of it, and it ended up selling for $770, which is about right for that. But I like the unusual coloring. Alrighty, now over here to this pair of Kangxi dishes, sort of a stock pattern dish with a brown dressing on the rim. We've seen these many, many times in every size imaginable, from 6 or 8 inches all the way up to 16 or 17 inches typically. And they also use the same pattern on jars and so forth. These were smaller, and the pair went for just $350 US. Perfectly reasonable buy. Nice looking pair of dishes right there. And these were, I forget how big they were. They weren't enormous. 10 inches. They weren't chargers. Once they get into chargers, as we've talked about many times, things get pretty expensive. All right. And then over here to this. This was the teapot that brought a lot of money. Again, another well-known type of Chinese export famille rose. Nice looking scene on it. Very finely done patterning in between it, but the drawing on it was particularly rich. Those of you that saw this know what I'm talking about. If you pulled up these pictures and you see how richly done the colors are, the oranges are very strong, the facial areas are shaded in beautifully, the soft skin colors and so forth. Nice lid on it, and it was a good size too. It wasn't enormous, but very fine sort of a fill-in patterns were used all the way around. There was quite a bit of wear to the gilt, but it did very well. It brought $2,075. All right, but unusual. This was a seller in Northampton in the UK had that. I like that. And over here to this, the reticulated 18th century famille rose cup. Rather unusual. So they started doing these in the Ming dynasty with these reticulated walls, sort of with an inner cup lining it and so forth. They did teapots in this form and bowls and so forth. Those of you that study Ming stuff, you've seen it. A few of them turned up the Kangxi period. And here's a nice famille rose one, probably Qianlong. I don't know how the seller dated it. He dated it Qianlong. It went for $598. All right, because these are fairly unusual. Usually one of where the partitions, or a couple of them, are cracked or broken by now. Very susceptible to breakage. And these were originally put out in sets, but quite nice. And then over here to this very nice pair of 1780s pear-shaped Chinese export garniture vases. These are not copies. These are real ones. Beautifully done. Nice underglazed blue decoration with overglazed famille rose enamels. Decorated well down each side. These were done sort of as a stock pattern back in the day. This was a well-known type that you could order by its decoration with the vase of flowers in the center, and they made a lot of these, surprisingly, and they do turn up in estates from time to time, and they range in size from 10 or so inches tall all the way up to 18 inches tall. They can be quite large. These were sold as being these vases were in perfect condition by a seller, a Ramkin, and they went for $1,678, and they were just around 10 or 11 inches tall, but very nicely done and in good shape, and the gilding looked good on them. So that really helps the price a lot too. It's the little things, the wear and scratches and loss of all the gilding can pull the price down on Famille Rose export wares. All right, and then over here to this, just a fairly regular Mandarin dish of people serving beverages in a courtyard. And you can see here she's got a tray with a bronze on it and a little vase and a couple of elder women. And it looks like they're almost teaching the children how to serve, how to be hospitable. I think that's what the scene is probably depicting, with two moms or aunts looking over and watching as the young people practice being polite and hospitable, serving one another. And it went for $178, which I think was a good deal. And they dated as Chai Qing period, Chai Qing Daoquan period, probably more likely Daoquan, but very nicely done. It's a quibble about the dating, a matter of 20 years. And then to this Kangxi dish. This was a nice one. It was very nicely outlined, I thought, all the way around, and then beautifully shaded in. Nice looking flowers, good division, nice white contrast, neatly done. Here's a picture of the back of it, pretty much exactly how you want to see it. It's got that grooved white porcelain foot rim around it. Looked to be in awfully good shape. And went for $1,566. It was actually more of a bowl than a plate. And the foot rim on it looks okay. They did copies of these later, but the blue on that doesn't look like a copy to me. It looks fine. And I think 1556 or 1566 was just about right on that as far as the price goes. And on to this, the pair of pith paintings. This, if you like Chinese paintings, you like pith paintings, these were interesting, and I think they went for very modest amount, because they're depicting, as you can see, obviously, porcelains and bronzes and jades from the period, and they're being displayed nicely on these stands because you'll recall that later they did photographs that were set up very much like this around 1900 of objects in collections and so forth. And here it was painted, and these were done in the little pith workshops in Canton and so forth for the export market. But nicely done and interesting. And somebody got these both for $127. I think that was an excellent buy, because they're depicting interesting, precious objects, which makes them interesting. Here's a big Zun vase, and there's a water pot down in the corner, and a nice jade disc with the stand under it. It looks like a root or an ivory stand. Can't really tell, but anyway, very nice. $127. How can you beat that? All right, and then over here to this is Japanese. This was being sold by our friends at the Ceramics and Collectibles over in the Netherlands, the Shangri-La guys. Well, I shouldn't say that until I double check, but yeah, Ceramics and Collectibles. This is a Japanese Champlavet ewer done sort of in a Middle Eastern form. I thought this was a terrific piece of Champlavet. The shape was nice, the proportions are nice. I like the bronze lid with the heavy cover on it. I like the way they did the body, and then into this base with a bronze belt around it and another bronze belt at the base. Very strong, very strong looking. And I like the fact that they did the handle in red with a red ground against the body in blue. I think this was a really well thought out piece, very beautifully done, nice colors. And somebody stole this, $151. That was one of the buys of this and the other piece. I think were some of the buys of the week. This was a really, really, really good buy. They dated it as circa 1930. I think it's actually a bit older than that. I think it's closer to 1900, maybe even a little before. It's just my opinion, but I think it's awfully well done to be a later piece. And they put in some nice additional photographs of it. Some nice details. Here's the underside of it. There's the lid with a bit of Champlavet on the top, and it's been kept polished. This is from being polished over the years, keeping it clean and so forth. But I really like that, regardless of whether it's 1900 or 1930 or whatever. $150 was a very, very good buy. And then over here to this was a nice piece of Chanchi ware, and rather unusual, with these lotus-shaped cavetto running around the outside, and then an outer border of sort of scallop sea scallop patterns going around here, and then a scale pattern, and then these swirling clouds and floating flowers in the middle, and then left open here, and then nicely spaced and blank around the outside. very pretty. And the back of it looked fine. Had some nice bits of grit and whatnot in the foot rim, as you want to see on these Tianqi transitional ware pieces. And it went for $635, but it looked to be in perfect condition, which is a big thing with these. If it had a hairline in it, other than, it has some minor rim printing, but other than that, it looked great. You crack one of these and it takes away about 80-90% of the value pretty quickly, especially these days. And then onto this was this nice Chongsen period porcelain bowl. I want to bring this back up here for a second here. It was a nice one, but it had a repair in it right here, old gold lacquer repair. And but nicely done with the mythical sort of monkeys running around the outside. It's been used, but look at the price, $82 because of the repair. That's the end of it. Without the repair, that was a $400, $500 plate. And then, oh yeah, this was the jar we had up. It did fine in the end. The Kangxi jar ended up selling for $3,255, which was fine. It's all been taken care of and on its way. All right, we were happy to sell that. It was a nice thing. Came out of a house in the Boston area. All right, now a couple of things that are coming up I wanted to talk about was, hold on a second here, is this. This is a nice looking Kangxi plate that we came across. This will be in the newsletter page this week on Bidamount.com. Nice looking Kangxi dish. I like the pattern in the middle. I like the rim. I like the milky white surface of the bowl. Almost looks like Kakeyamon, but it's not. It's Chinese, and I think that is very, very nice, very elegant. And also this popped up overnight. This, I believe, is a Guangxu period Kong. Looks fine to me. They didn't describe it as that. It's not perfect. It has a little bite out of the top up here, but celadon ground Guangxu period Kong. Here's the bottom of it. If it's not Guangxu, it's just slightly out of it, but a very worthy looking piece. I like the fat rolled foot rim on it and so forth. Here's the inside of it. There's the outside of it. Here's the chip. You can get that fixed. That's a significant chip, but still, nice looking pot. That looks good to me right there. That edge where the glaze is slightly bumpy, and I suspect this is a late Guangxu example, but very, very nice. Even if it's a Republic, it's still worth chasing. But it's up to $40. It's got 5 bids, and we'll see how that does. That will be in the newsletter page this week also, and then there's some silks and textiles. I just threw that in there to remind myself. And as always, there's silks and textiles on there. There's some nice porcelain, and we haven't yet looked at the Katawiki site, see what they've got. But as I mentioned last week, for the time being, we're going to try to filter out things that appear to have reserves over in Katawiki, because I think some of the sellers there are getting a little bit out over their skis on their reserves these days. It seems to me that 3 out of 4 things don't sell, and that's not a good situation. So I don't want to put things up and then find out from people they get frustrated bidding against crazy reserves. No point to that. Waste of time. All righty. Have a wonderful weekend. It is pouring here. We're going to get the back end of that tropical storm that's sweeping up the East Coast. We're just going to get rain this weekend, I guess. Cape Cod, unfortunately, is having a very bad holiday week. It's been cold up here. It was in the 50s here this week with wind off the ocean and rain and everything else. And the beaches are closing on Cape Cod because of the storm. They're afraid they don't want to lose the tourists, getting them sucked out to sea and then eaten by the great white sharks down there. So they're going to close the beaches down because there'll be a lot of sharks around once the storms go by and the food gets flushed in closer to shore. Those great whites will come along behind it. So if you're down on Cape Cod and you're going swimming over the weekend, be a little careful. All right. You don't want to get bitten by one of those fellas. All righty. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week. We're working on a few things. We're working on some videos, and hopefully we'll get them up for you in the next few days. Between now and next Friday. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.